So those of you who enjoyed the video, we had a really fun thing today when Justin brought me in on his Twitch stream where he was preparing for today's show. So you got to see us making sausage, Justin.
Well, ooh, that's kind of, yeah, it's a really, really bad visual when you said that.
No, it's not. Not unless you make it that.
Yeah. I mean, we're not making it with our sausage. We are just making sausage. Have some decorum.
Seriously. Anyway, where do people go if they want to catch that?
Twitch.tv/Justin R. Young, and of course all the archive footage is always on diamondclub.tv. So yeah, you can always check that out. But yeah, every Thursday morning, I read through. It's basically like a little, my ruminations on the stuff, so we can make a better show here in the afternoon.
So what you can do is go watch that, or even go into the archives on Diamond Club and watch it. Then watch this show.
Yeah.
Compare, and then yell hypocrite at us.
I mean, a lot of it is like I really loved it because it was like the kind of newsroom sort of talk that I don't get to do anymore.
No, totally. And it's funny, like in our pre and post show here, we hold ourselves to a different standard of behavior and rhetoric than we do in the main show, and sometimes that's enjoyable in a different way. And it was the same sort of thing on
I mean, this is a primarily audio podcast, right? So you have to adhere to the best practices of a really good audio podcast, especially considering the franchise that this show is kind of born out of. And you respect that, and that's super fun, and I love doing it. But also it's cool to expand a little bit.
It's cool to let me rant about coverage of Yahoo.
Yes, and also there's a lot of like any good newsroom, the majority of the conversation is covering the coverage that is covered elsewhere.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Yeah, let me disappear.
Goodbye, Roger. All right, here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. Without you, there's no show. If you don't already support us, find out how to at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, January 12th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt, joining me Justin Robert Young, host of Politics, WeirdThings.com, Night Attack, so many other things. How you doing, Justin?
Oh, man, just trying to keep busy, keeping some irons in the fire, starting a fire, buying some irons, throwing the two together, having a good time.
Watch for Justin to be brought up on allegations of arson soon in the podcasting neighborhood.
I'll tell you what, I don't think I'll ever be let back on that golf course.
Hey, we do this from time to time when we have so many good substantive emails from people that we just want to focus on your thoughts and kick those around. So that's what we're doing today. We try to come up with a new alliteration depending on the day. The first time we ever did it was Friday, so Fan Mail Friday made sense. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Your Thoughts Thursday for this one because they're your thoughts. What do you think?
I think that Your Thought Thursday it's almost avant-garde, right?
Thinking Thursday.
I feel like it is indeed your thoughts.
That doesn't mean there isn't stuff in the news. Amazon said Thursday it plans to create 100,000 full-time jobs in the U.S. over the next 18 months. A lot of those are in previously announced new warehouses.
Google's updated Google Maps to show where Uber drivers are and let you book an Uber ride without leaving the Google Maps app.
That's handy. We're going to cover the Nintendo's 11 p.m. Eastern Thursday night Switch announcement, the announcement of their brand new game console on tomorrow's episode of DTNS.
And in sadder news, the crowdfunded autonomous quadcopter camera Lily has closed after failing to secure financing for a full-scale production. Refunds will be delivered within the next 60 days.
Startups are hard.
Indeed.
Now here are some more top stories. Wall Street Journal reports Apple is talking with veteran TV and movie producers about commissioning high-quality scripted series, Netflix-level stuff, even some movies. The Journal's sources say the projects would start with a handful of carefully selected shows and movies. No deals have been made yet, and according to the Journal, one of the holdups is people wondering, well, how are you going to distribute this? Are you going to put it in Apple Music? Are you just going to sell it through the iTunes store? Are you going to start your own streaming service? Apple has some original content already, carpool karaoke, documentaries, an upcoming series based on the life of Dr. Dre, and distribution is either through Apple Music or just in the iTunes store so far.
This is in simultaneous ways kind of the best and the worst of Apple within the last 3 to 4 years, right? Number one, probably the best new thing that Apple has done in the last 5 years is Apple Music. They hired the right person in Jimmy Iovine. It's continued to steadily grow. It seems like its business model is relevant to the field that they were getting into. Apple has had a fairly cruddy record in terms of internet services. This is a bright spot. You would think that bringing in especially high-end, very polished kind of content is something that Apple wants to be a part of. And yet, it is indicative of Apple's problems of where does this go? And anybody who's tried to navigate the iTunes store over the last 3 years can realize that if there's one problem, is that the solution for everything over the last 10 years for Apple was, well, jam it in iTunes. The store, it's in iTunes. How to manage your device, it's in iTunes. Everything is in iTunes. I hope that they can figure out a way to give these projects the kind of oxygen they're going to need.
Yeah. My initial thought is they've got this brand new TV app. The home button on Apple TV takes you to that TV app. The TV app is eventually, hopefully, going to get integrated with Netflix and other services so that it becomes the place, at least Apple hopes, that you go to if you're using an Apple TV to watch stuff. And that is the perfect place for Apple to say, hey, we've got our own shows. Just like they do when they have these iTunes sessions, right? And other original music. They just put it in iTunes alongside the other music. You put it in the TV show app, and you can make it available for free. You could say, yeah, you don't have to pay. You just get access to it as long as you're using an Apple TV or maybe an iOS device. And then if you want to buy it for using on other platforms like Windows, etc., you can pay for it that way if you want. My suspicion is that the hangup isn't so much about that as a distribution method, but how much the production company should get paid based on that, because they know how much they should get paid based on a TV series that's going to air on a certain network and get a certain amount of ratings, and then they get to keep the syndication rights. They know how much they're going to get paid by Netflix, who says, we're going to stream this forever, but we know about how many people that's going to mean. We're not going to tell you that number, but it's worth this much to us. Whereas with Apple, it's a distribution method where like, okay, so it's tied to one device and you don't know how many people are going to watch it. We want you to pay this much for it, and Apple probably doesn't want to pay that much.
It also seems like the easy way for them to do this is to do what Amazon has done, what Jeff Bezos has done, and just fund some series, right? Fund some movies that gets you, like Jeff Bezos was there at the Golden Globes. There's no reason why when something wins Best Picture, something wins Best Foreign Documentary or something like that at the Oscars, the producers are the ones who walk up. You want Tim Cook to be the one that says, I am now a purveyor, and therefore Apple is now a purveyor of high-end content, and we are continuing the legacy of Steve Jobs, who was obviously so influential in owning Pixar and bringing that company along to where it is today, down to the fact that they wound up, dominating Disney at the end of it. So, like, this is, I think, where they could start doing it. But you're right. There is a question, because unless they, hashtag Apple rumor, were to buy a streaming service and then make it their own in the way that they did Beats to Apple Music, I don't know if this has, in where we have now, there is a clear A to B. This is where we buy it. This is where we show it solution.
I forgot who I was talking about. And when you were talking about Tim Cook coming up on stage, And when a movie funded by Apple wins an award, it clicked with me. And the way that movie is distributed, the way Amazon distributes it, 90 days in a theater so that it gets the qualification to be considered for awards, and then for sale. Now, with Amazon, they also make it available for Amazon Prime Video. But like you said, Apple doesn't have that. Apple's probably going into these meetings saying, yeah, so here's what we do, production company. You make this movie and or TV show. We split the receipts for the theater if it shows within the theater, and then we give you 30% of every sale. Period.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's how Apple approaches this stuff. And the production company's like, yeah, no, we need like a budget that's this level. And I'm sure Apple's not being so stringent that they wouldn't give them a budget. But I bet they're saying, yeah, and what you'll really get paid is 30% of every sale. If it doesn't sell, if you make a crappy show, you don't get as much money.
But here's the question. To do music, Apple needed iVean. Who is that for movies? Who is that for television?
Well, yeah, and the rumors go wild about Apple buying Netflix because Apple's got enough cash to buy Netflix. I still maintain that Reed Hastings is not in any hurry to sell Netflix at this point. So I don't think that happens, at least not yet. I'm not saying it would never happen. In which case, Jason Kilar is out there kicking around. Vessel didn't end up doing what he thought it would do. You could probably get him for cheap to come in and create something from scratch. The knock on Apple is cloud services ain't so good there, but they are still pouring lots of money into data centers. They applied for permission in Arizona to build their own machinery, to put in their own data centers. They are committed to cloud services. They may have enough hubris to say, yeah, we'll just roll our own, hire the right people.
You want to know what? I would almost say the Apple playbook, at least if we're going to follow the iVean hire, is to look for somebody that has ran a network, right? Or has ran a movie studio that you then
versus
say,
someone who's run a successful streaming service. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? You know this industry. You know which festivals to go to. You know when you're getting fleeced. I mean, almost like a Harvey Weinstein or something like that. Like
you go hire Suzanne Williams away from YouTube Originals, maybe, or somebody like that who's gone from the studios to a streaming service like YouTube or Amazon and has all the experience.
Yeah. The U.S. FCC issued a report on Wednesday saying that AT&T's DirecTV Now video service and Verizon's Freebie Data 360 video service violate open internet rules because of the implementation of zero rating. The report claims that the telcos charge competitors too much for the exact same zero rating. The companies give their own products. T-Mobile's Binge On service, which does not charge participants, was not found to be in the same violation. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler will step down next Friday.
Yeah. So this is very interesting because I think this is Tom Wheeler just kind of denying reality and putting his head down. And because he was a former lobbyist, he put himself in the situation where he's like, no, I have to do what is always right, no matter the realities of the situation. That's how we saw him play it out. I'm going to put into effect open internet guidelines that try to satisfy all stakeholders. I'm not going to prefer anyone. I'm going to work against my own biases. And he's still doing it because, man, this is not going to be enacted. When Ajit Pai or whoever steps in as interim chairman next Friday comes in, this is over. Like this will have no effect.
Except for precedent. And going forward, who knows whether or not it will be valuable. But I think that is something that he wants to say, hey, look, we set up these rules. Here are things that go past the rules. I want it, as long as these rules are here and these are being enforced, I want it to be known that this is what this means. So, I mean, you're right. This is him kind of railing against the dying of the light. But at the same time, he's holding to it.
Yeah. Good for him. That's
sure.
Awesome. Cheers.
Good job. Good job.
HTC announced the 5.7-inch U, letter U, Ultra, and the 5.2-inch U Play phones. Both phones have an all-glass exterior. They're very glossy. They come with the Sense Companion, HTC's version of a virtual assistant. Both use USB-C for the headphones, so no mini jack, carrying on that trend. The U front-facing camera, the U Ultra has a 2-inch second screen at the top to the right of the front-facing camera for notifications and shortcuts, music controls, stuff like that. Also comes with a micro SD card. I know a lot of you guys care about that. And that can work with up to 2 terabyte cards. 3,000 milliamp hour battery, so not huge. And the U Play, the smaller one, only has a 2,500 milliamp hour battery. The U Ultra with 64 gigabytes of storage is up for pre-order right now for $749. You can get it in blue, black, white, or pink. It ships to Taiwan starting at the end of January and the rest of the world starting in March. The U Play will be available later this spring. No price announced yet. And there is a limited edition Sapphire screen version of the big one, the U Ultra, that'll have 128 gigs of storage. They didn't give us any price or release date on that. On a side note to this HTC announcement, let's just pack in all of our little cell phone news here together. The Korea Herald has sources that say Samsung's working on a fold-out phone for release this autumn that would turn into a 7-inch tablet when you unfold it.
So both of these are kind of the next evolution of phones. I think the HTC one is probably incremental enough to not necessarily warrant much more conversation, except to chastise them for not bringing out Warren Sapp to extol the virtues of the U. But as far as the Samsung rumors go, is this, I mean, like, do we need, like, we're on the grand scheme between gimmick and awesome step forward is a bendable, flexible phone like this?
I don't think anyone knows anymore. Phones have become such a commodity. People don't really want to replace them if they don't have to as much, especially in the stronger markets of the world. And so you see LG Display saying, hey, we've got an 18:9 aspect ratio phone, so you've got more screen space to do stuff. You see HTC saying, we've got a second screen built in, so we don't even need your 18:9 screen, LG. We can do all this cool stuff here, and isn't that cool? You can get all these controls. And then you have Samsung maybe doing a fold-out phone for the first time, and those kinds of phones have been rumored forever. Everybody's trying to figure out what is the thing that will make people say, oh, I do need to replace my phone because I wanted that. And it's there hasn't been anything in 10 years that really overturned how phones use other than size.
Yeah, and even then, it piggybacked on, and we saw a lot of the tributes with the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, the big innovations then, a decade ago, which was the real internet in your hand. Pinch and zoom, not mobile web pages, not crappy little placeholders. This is the same web page that you would see. And now, obviously, we've had things optimized now, but those are better experience as opposed to what we had before, which was crappy placeholders. So now a wider phone, a bigger phone, a faster phone, a phone with more battery gives you better access to those fundamental elements. I don't really have a whole lot of faith for a flexible phone, particularly because the problem that everybody is facing right now is not only do you have to differentiate yourself in a very, very, very competitive market that is increasingly becoming commoditized, but you also can't sacrifice anything else that we've already gained. You can't sacrifice the battery life. You can't sacrifice the screen sharpness. You can't sacrifice the connectivity to your phone to make sure that you always get the best signal. So anything that you do, even if it's avant-garde, even if it's cool, even if it's something that you've never seen before, has to still do what every other phone is doing right now, but better. And that's the problem.
If you advance into things that operating systems on laptops can do that phones can't, you run into, well, that really doesn't work well at this screen size, or that's something that only Tom Merritt cares about, and most people don't give a crap, and so they're fine with the way their phones work now. Like I think it's a really good point. You can't sacrifice the things that phones do well that people like right now.
So far, no truth to the rumors that Samsung is considering adding minor league updates for the St. Louis Cardinals farm system, in their drive to only make phones that Tom Merritt cares about.
Hard-coded in.
Exactly. Opera has released an experimental browser called the Opera Neon for Windows and Mac, built on the Blink engine. Tabs appear as a round bubble on the right. A sidebar to the left has audio and video controls, a screenshot button, and access to downloads. If the screen is wide enough, you can put two browser tabs side by side in the same window. The new tab page serves as the bookmark page and shows the desktop background image as its background. this seems like a thing that has really sort of bubbled up. Again, yet another field in which everything is kind of incrementally better. But now you've seen this web development push to like, hey, let's rethink email with inbox. Like let's rethink stuff with all these different new ways to tackle it. And some of them are more successful than others. And ultimately the best features get rolled into other stuff. Is the Opera Neon something that grabs you, Tom?
It does. And the reason it grabs me is because it's an experimental browser. Opera's not saying this is our next version. I like what they're doing here. They're essentially supercharging the beta and saying, we put out a full browser. It's not just a beta version of the next version of Opera, because we want to try some stuff that's really different and we want to see if you guys like it. So go try using this. We're taking a desktop metaphor. We're trying once again that decades-long dream of the browser overtaking the desktop. We're going to play with the metaphor. We're going to get rid of the bookmark tab. We're going to get rid of the taskbar. We're going to see if all of these ideas flop or succeed, and then that'll help them make a better Opera browser. And Opera has often led the way. God love these people like Opera, Vivaldi, Brave, all these other browser makers who are pushing the big guys like Chrome and Safari and Firefox by starting over fresh and saying, you know what, the problem is with browsers, they're got too much legacy code in there. So let's try something fresh and see what we can do when we don't have those constraints anymore.
I kind of feel like Opera kind of has like this like T-Mobile vibe about it lately, where it's just like, they're just doing stuff that people like. It's just like it's cool. It's interesting. It's refreshing.
Yeah. Facebook page businesses and brands can now go live with video streams from desktop and laptop computers, or at least they should very soon. I didn't have it for Daily Tech News Show, but it should come. Previously, Facebook page users could only go live from a mobile device or by using the Facebook Live API. So now you can just log in on your laptop to your Facebook business page and go live right from there using your laptop's camera. Also, page operators can designate live contributors. This will be big for newsrooms so that someone can stream to the page without having to access other administrative functions. So your social media manager doesn't have to give his account to the reporter. They can just assign the reporter, say, you don't need all the admin functions, but here, stream live on our page. Profiles with more than 5,000 subscribers now get access to metrics, things like views, time spent viewing, engagement, that sort of thing.
I am flummoxed by Facebook's live video, because it seems to be in this very, very weird, mushy middle of we want everyday people to use it, or we want to pay brands to make top of the line, first run, awesome live content. And I have no doubt that their goal is to attract both, but they put a ton of advertising into what, even in their advertising examples. I was walking through SFO over the holidays. They've got these gigantic ads that are about do a live stream for 4 people. You see like the number 4 people watching in the top, like, and that's the same exact product that is supposed to be there, like in the image we just showed, which was like, what if the moon landing was on Facebook Live? Here's 600 million people watching it. And that's what they want to do with these, like these page streamings. And now it's like, okay, what this really is okay, if you're a business, if you've got a bustling Facebook page, hook up a TriCaster. Let's make sure that you produce studio quality content, because now it's easier to do. You don't have to hack it by running it through a phone or get some secret Facebook blessing to run it through your browser.
I mean, honestly, the Facebook Live API, if you just make that more widely available, does exactly what you're talking about. If you're going to the trouble of hooking up a TriCaster, then you should be able to just plug the API in there. It would be easier than having to go through the Facebook page. So it's striking the middle, like you say, of, hey, we want to make it easy for you to make higher quality, so we're giving you another way into doing live rather than having to use the phone if you haven't been working with us closely on live.
Yeah, and I totally blanked on the fact that like you can run it through Wirecast and stuff like that, and that's been available for a while. I don't know. I mean, I think that obviously video has a place on Facebook, and live video certainly has a place on Facebook. I would love for them to kind of step up their chat game and make it a little bit of a better place for people to hang out for longer periods of time and not necessarily make it so tied to the comment system. But you want to know what? I would also like that in our next story, because YouTube has replaced its fan funding option and replaced it with something called Super Chat that lets viewers pay to have their chat messages pinned to the top of a chat stream for up to 5 hours. It's rolling out to select creators today, and then all creators in 20 countries and viewers in 40 countries starting January 31st. This again focused on live streaming fairly specifically. Tom, what do you think?
Okay, when I saw this, and by the way, my wife no longer works for YouTube. I just want to disclose that.
Okay.
I thought, it's not, first of all, I think selfishly, probably not something I'll use. I usually keep the YouTube chat off so that everybody focuses on the diamondclub.tv chat. And also it just was filling up with spam. Second thing I thought is, if I turned this on, that's what would happen, is someone would put their Viagra pill advertisement and pin it to the top of my chat. And it would be another thing that I would have to pay attention to try to figure out. But the third thing I thought is, hey, you know what? If you're Lamar Wilson with 1 million subs and you want to go live, this is a great way to make some more monetization and treat your fans. And then I looked at Twitter and I saw that Justin Robert Young said that this is bad. Why is this bad?
This is bad, not because it's a bad idea, although I'm sure that there's plenty of people in purple hoodies, one of which is my wife who works at Twitch, that will probably say, yeah, I liked it better when it was called cheer crystals. But that's not a bad idea, right? The idea of recognizing people, giving somebody a monetary way to support a streamer that also gives value to them is good. And I think that there are going to be people that have gigantic followings on YouTube that are it's going to be worth it for them to have more live streams and give people a reason to give them whatever amount of money it takes to pin a comment up there at the top. My larger problem is that if you do not already have a massive install base, if you don't already have a massive subscriber base for your YouTube channel, I just don't know how effective YouTube comments are as chat. They don't have great moderation tools. They are not focused on keeping a chat community. And it to be fair, it is something that Twitch has done well. And when you talk about the difference of a standing community for Twitch live streamers and YouTube live streamers, which makes people want to go live more, a large part of it is for Twitch. It's easy to mod people. It's easy they now have auto mod, which is a constantly refreshed way to keep stuff out of chats before they even get there. At least the easy to strain, easy to catch kind of stuff. It's easy to unmod people, to ban people. It's only a click away. You can do it on mobile. And those are the kind of rounded edges that I think differentiates those two products. So yeah, it's a good idea. I just think it's a better idea when you already have a rich chat culture, which YouTube, I think, has failed to do.
I think that's fair. And I would say you're not really saying it's bad. You're saying that the product that it is being put into is not good enough for this to make much of a difference. And I agree with that, if that's what you're saying, which is like, this isn't going to save anything. The fan funding before just was never really promoted. It was never pushed in front of people. And so that's why it probably didn't work. So giving something for participation probably has a better chance. But and like you say, unless you've already got a vibrant YouTube chat community, which some channels do have, this isn't going to change things.
But also, what's easier? To schedule more live content, to write outside of your comfort zone so you can do live chats, or to just look for another sponsor that's probably going to make you the exact same, if not more amount of money that you can more easily leverage, that cash. The reason why fan funding failed for YouTube is because, and we know very, very well as independent creators, you are very nervous when it comes to a flow of money. Like you need, like, there's a reason why you don't see a ton of new banks popping up, right? Like the new banks that we see are usually just rebrandings of other places that have a history of taking in money, loaning money, stuff like that. We don't. It's not really exciting to be like, oh, here's a renegade bank that might go away tomorrow. That's the opposite of what you want. Patreon has worked very, very, very hard to be as stable as possible for a long time. They're not going to change their algorithm. They're not going to change different stuff. It's a very simple proposition. Come here, set up a page, plug it on your thing. We'll give you the money, and we're working hard to get.
So what you're saying is you as a creator don't want to spend time promoting something that you're worried is going to get shut down or go away.
Absolutely. And that's the problem, is that for YouTube, you have an inherent problem where you're also the gatekeeper, and the fact that, well, why do I want to give you a cut of my money? I'm a creator. If I believe you're screwing with the algorithm that now devalues my videos, which has been a consistent problem for them over the last 2 years, and might go away, which you just did. So now you have inherently damaged.
Well, it went away because you people didn't use it because you were afraid it was going to go away. So self-fulfilling prophecy, or however you say that. No, I think it's, I think that if YouTube had made a bigger deal out of the fan funding and put it front and center, that it might have had a chance, but it was hidden. And you're absolutely right. Creators already have reliable revenue streams. They weren't going to throw all their efforts into promoting that.
And even more than that, revenue streams that they could continue going if they left YouTube.
Oh, sure. You just want to get everybody off of YouTube. I get it.
No. But that's a platform. Agnosticism has its perks.
Yeah, absolutely. Believe me. To get all the tech headlines each day in less than 10 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com, available on Amazon Echo. It's because we just talked about platform independence. That's a look at the top story. All right. It is Your Thoughts Thursday, folks. And we got some really good emails from some insiders, some anonymous sources. Let's start talking about Amazon Echo with Jeff, who said, I was very close to buying an Amazon Echo as a gift for someone, probably because I really wanted one myself. But I realized that until the key feature of customized and personalized wake words is addressed, I will not be buying or using any voice-activated assistant products from anybody for anyone. I consider it absolutely ridiculous that someone else on the television, radio, phone, or in person can accidentally activate my assistant. Only I should be able to do that. It should respond only to me and with whatever wake word I desire. To me, this seems like a bit like making a car, but not worrying about the braking system. This is not just an Amazon Echo issue. As far as I know, none of the other voice assistant products and similar features on smartphones have customized and personalized wake words either. So I get that it must be a hard problem. However, whoever gets this feature to work properly first will begin the next generation of voice-activated assistant products. And until then, I will wait and laugh at all of the silly things that happen to people with the current generation of these products.
So I
think
it's not
nice to laugh, Jeff. But
yeah, number one, that's not exactly polite. Number two, I think that the market has decided that Jeff's priorities are secondary to the priority of it works even if I'm 3 rooms away.
Yeah.
It works even if it's my daughter saying it instead of me, and we don't have to go through 15 minutes of training the device to recognize another voice, right? And mark it as approved. So I think he's right. And I think that as we go forward, absolutely, I would expect in the next 5 years that there are going to be smart solutions to it. And now that we've all bought into the idea of having always on microphones in our house and having many of them so we get as much surface area as possible, that we'll be more interested in spending that 15 minutes for it to learn our voice so the TV doesn't accidentally operate it.
Yeah, but I don't even think it needs to be 15 minutes. I think the key is not creating customizable wake words, although that would be interesting, but more training it like a fingerprint sensor to say, oh, I'm going to recognize your voice. And that's a machine learning problem that I don't know where it is, but I think if it was easy, it would already be in there. So it involves some cloud processing for sure. It is something that is doable, though, absolutely doable. It's just a matter of making it easy. And I think, like you said, the trade-off has been, okay, we hear about the San Diego news announcer who causes a bunch of people to accidentally order dollhouses. We hear about the one guy who canceled his Patreon for Daily Tech News Show because Veronica laughed about saying the Amazon Echo wake word. Those are rare instances. We're falling for the psychological trick where, because we hear about something happening, we think it happens more widespread than it does. The fact of the matter is, people with Google Homes and Amazon Echoes, they don't have this happen all that often. When it does happen, it usually doesn't cause a big problem.
But also, it works. And if the problem is it works too well, that is the trade-off. Well, Amazon and Google and everybody else who does these will take every time.
But the rest of the time it works, right? And so even as a consumer, you don't mind like, oh, it woke up that one time and that was weird. And if nothing bad happens, or even if you have to go cancel an order maybe once out of the year that you have this.
And also, I mean, listen,
you much prefer that over talking to it and having it not understand what you're saying.
And because it's like, get 3 of those, it didn't hear me. 3 of those, it didn't understand me. That thing's out the window, right? Yeah. It would have never taken off. Moving on. Carl from wet and miserable Memphis, the home of Jerry the King Lawler, I add editorially, wrote in to say that he thinks the reason carriers aren't paying as much for free TV spectrum is that it's the lower frequency 600 megahertz range. He writes, from everything I've seen, and I freely admit I haven't seen everything, 5G is going to require a higher frequency bandwidth to achieve this potential. The longer wavelengths of lower frequency spectrum will hinder its performance. As a result, higher frequency spectrum will be in demand, and 5G rollouts will rely more on microcells than macro cells. A case in point, at the recent AWS-3 spectrum auction bought in around $45 billion when the FCC was expecting between $10 billion and $20 billion. This is the auction that Sprint sat out of. Some people speculated that they couldn't afford it, while others noted that they already own a nationwide swath of 2.5 gigahertz spectrum and didn't need the 1700 megahertz spectrum or gigahertz, 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, didn't need the 1700 megahertz spectrum being offered. The carriers are willing to pay a lot more 2 years ago for higher frequency spectrum than they're willing to pay for lower frequency spectrum today.
Yeah, so if none of that made sense to you, what Carl is saying is the reason that the FCC is having a hard time selling off that freed television spectrum we were talking about yesterday is that the carriers don't need it for 5G. They need a higher spectrum. And they are definitely willing to pay for that higher spectrum and pay more than the FCC expected. What did you have something else on that before we?
No. I mean, what I'm interested here is there's got to be some kind of really interesting use for that spectrum. And
absolutely, and there will be. But right now, it's just not as valuable. So until that newer use comes around, maybe it is best left for broadcasting over the air for the time being.
For now,
We had a lot of people write in about their own personal needs for over-the-air broadcasting or not. Bill in Huntsville, Alabama, said, hey, in April of 2011, tornadoes took down the power grid in North Alabama. We were without power for 2 weeks at my house. I was able to power my own home, but Comcast service was down. Over-the-air communication was the only source of what was going on. Most broadcast stations seemed to have emergency power. I have VoIP phone service, and it was down, but my neighbors with POTS and DSL, plain old telephone service and DSL, had landline and internet service. The power outage from Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana and Mississippi was more widespread and lasted longer. Long live over-the-air. But then we also got Daniel, who said, in regards to your discussion of emergency alerts over FM radio and speculation about having emergency alerts on phones, I got this exact kind of alert yesterday due to heavy flooding and flash flood warnings in the San Francisco Bay Area. A very loud alarm sound went off on my phone and a message popped up. Seems like what you were imagining already exists. So there is some emergency alert going on. And then Kimberly in Houston said, we get weather alerts over our phones and tablets. My sister actually packed all the devices into a box and locked them into a car one night because of 8 devices going off one after another meant no one was sleeping. Back as far as 2008, I was using my phone to get news during and after Hurricane Ike, while power and cable were still out. This was actually one reason I cut the cord. I'd been keeping cable because what happens if there's a hurricane? Well, after the storm, my TV was useless without power or cable, but I could charge my phone at many of the stores and restaurants that had power and opened as charging and cooling facilities, even though they couldn't conduct regular business. The businesses were often either near critical infrastructure like hospitals or at critical junctures in the power grid. The mobile network near me worked fine through the storm and after. And last spring, when we had back-to-back major floods and damage to the dam near my home, I again used my phone and tablet to get news. For a while, I was getting the most relevant news from 2 stations using Facebook Live after they went off the air for broadcast due to damage and had to evacuate. I've added several battery packs to my emergency kit, and if we're expecting severe weather, they're charged and ready to go to get me through the storm for exactly this reason.
I mean, the more solutions, the better, right? Especially when you are dealing with something like a natural disaster that can leave you out of power for weeks on end. I mean, I grew up in South Florida when Hurricane Andrew hit, and that was something that thankfully missed my family where it was originally slated to hit, but did devastate Homestead, which was to the south of me. And there were people out of power for weeks, if not months in some neighborhoods. So we are in a blessed era where we can have the option that whatever we have, be it a generator that can power a television and an antenna that can bring you whatever you need, whether you have cable or you do not have cable, whether or not those cable lines are severed, you can still go to the Whataburger and charge your phone and make sure that you still get some kind of announcements and you have some idea of what's going on. And specifically when in non-hurricane situations, which usually you have at least days, if not weeks, to kind of get your head around and prepare for, in the situation that Tom was saying, where there is a tornado, and very often those happen in clusters,
or an earthquake, which happens with no warning whatsoever.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that a tornado can come through, and then another tornado can come right afterward. That is a moment when any kind of information, as fast as possible, can literally save you and your family's life. So I think over the air certainly has a place. I've been using it a lot more as a cord cutter for dumb stuff like, college football games and the Golden Globes. But I think it certainly is a valuable tool in the gigantic war chest that we need when it comes to keeping ourselves safe.
I'll be honest. Saying that we need to keep over the air because of emergency broadcasts is really just saying we need to keep emergency broadcasts going at the channel where people can use it. And what these emails show is, for Bill, that was over the air. For Kimberly, that was a smartphone. There isn't one answer. One isn't better than the other. You have to look at the conditions on the ground. In Katrina, there were places where telephone service went out and they set up mesh Wi-Fi networks to help people get cell phone service. So there really isn't, we should keep over the air for emergency. It's we should keep over the air if the people are still relying on it for information. And when they're not, then we should make sure that we have emergency services that can be delivered on the devices they are using, like phones. And I think it's great that we had these examples from Bill and Kimberly because they're both very compelling of why both of these things are true. It's not just one or the other. Personally, I think we should keep over the air for a while. And if you want more reasons why that is, if you're a patron at the $5 a month level, there's a post out right now in our weekly update where I go into more details about it.
Someone who wishes to remain anonymous wrote in to say that the user research about the upgrade to Windows 10 indicated the 2 big concerns were the ability to roll back to an earlier OS and reassurance that files would be exactly as they were before the upgrade. Due to a bug or misunderstanding in requirements, the, quote, your stuff is exactly where you left it, quote, text message remained even for future updates. The customer doesn't interact with, such as going to the initial Windows 10 release to the first major fall update. So, text which was intended to be used to reassure people about something they explicitly chose to do and which worked well for that purpose was inadvertently reused in a different context, which clearly led to massive confusion and unnecessary concern. Luckily, the text was changed so that by the time the anniversary update came out, it was no longer there.
There you go. I had a couple other people let us know that, hey, in the anniversary update, that text went away. So Scott won't see it again, hopefully, when the creator update comes out.
Nice.
And then in our Slack channel, which is the analyst level on Patreon, AMSB was talking about yesterday's discussion on gaming revenue and the indie gaming renaissance we seem to be seeing. He said, I kind of feel like video game creators are now experiencing what music creators experienced in the early 2000s. Back in the day, musicians needed a lot of resources to produce and distribute their work. As advances in home recording equipment progressed and the internet began to blossom, suddenly anyone who could play an instrument or sing could record, produce, release, and distribute an incredibly polished, finished product to an audience of millions. The same is now true of video game development, where once it required a mega studio and scores of developers and engineers to create a successful game, we now see indies popping up all over the place, some, like Stardew Valley, even garnering critical acclaim. This is presumably due to the wide array of open source and distributed development tools and the modern ubiquity of powerful systems on which to develop. Mr. Red Sun, MR Red Sun, said, I think the larger reason why there's been an influx of indie game development is the lowered barrier to distribution. Steam's early access solves two problems. It provides an influx of cash during development, and it provides free game testers. It's also now way easier to publish a game on the three major consoles. Microsoft's experimental Xbox Live community games a few years back, I believe, says Mr. Red Sun, may have been the first time indie dev teams could self-publish on a major console. And then Mewcow from the AIE Guild wrote in, because I asked about, hey, if you've been directly affected by this reduction in game developer jobs, let us know. Mewcow says, you could say my life at the moment is extremely on the nose in regards to that story. I was a veteran of the games industry until summer 2016 when the bottom fell out of the industry and layoffs hit hard. A typical stint at a games company could last 1 or 2 years, depending on the company and your role. So when I got my layoff after 3 years at the last company, it was considered a long run. What really changed, however, was the lack of new positions waiting for those like me that needed a new gaming home. After 3 months of getting no job prospects in the gaming industry, I had to look outside the industry to get work. Amusingly enough, I started using Indeed.com, which had the data from our story, to search for something new, and even more amusing is that I ended up finding a great job at Indeed.com itself.
Oh, that's great.
As you mentioned in the story, there are a lot of non-gaming industry positions that need those talented people, and I think people like me are getting the memo and moving in that direction. It may not be as glamorous as a gaming job, but there is definitely more stability outside of that area.
Well, and this is the gift and the curse of the democratization of any industry, and we're seeing it in so many of them, right? Where the idea of putting a ton of money into the concept that you could have the big payoff with capital letters, BIG, are now replaced with base hits. You know, that if you get, as the tools to make these games get cheaper and the distribution becomes easier thanks to places like Steam, you are now easier. It's now a better idea than it was before to do a game with 3 developers. It is now less of a good idea to do a game with 300, right? Or at least the prospects are kind of going in different, not to say that everything is everything, right? But just in general. And that's, I think, what we're seeing.
And that's, that's true at a big game developer like EA.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for them to hire a bunch of extra people to do a job that can be done more efficiently with a smaller number of people using these more powerful tools now and save money to boot. So, hey, thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Another member of our audience that I want to give a shout out to today is Mike Range, who's been posting hilarious commentary. Movie League Mike, you may know him as. He posts every Saturday on the DTNS blog for a couple of years now, a hilarious look back at the stories of the week, and he's collected all of his 2016 recaps into one book called Tech Please, like check please, except for tech. So go buy it. Go to Amazon, get it for $3.99 on Kindle or $14.95 on paperback, and sit back and relive the best of 2016 in the most enjoyable way possible.
Can I just say this about Mike Range? Mike Range is such a clever writer. He is an amazing writer, and I want everybody to read him, especially if you enjoy this kind of topic. But he is everything that I love in a writer. Smart, incisive, and very willing to do the extra level of research and not just rely on his wit to kind of get by. And that's what I've loved his writing for the Movie League. I love his writing here. Everybody go get this book immediately.
Check it out. Tech Please by Mike Range. Thank you, Justin. Robert Young, what do you got going on before we get out of here?
Well, of course, you can follow me at Justin R. Young on Twitter. I think... we got news. We'll plug stickers. Stickers or DIAF.com is where you can go to get sticker packs, not only for all things in the shows that I do, but also my wife, Ashley Paramore, has stickers for her emotes that she does on her Twitch stream. Nice. So go ahead and check that out. Stickers or DIAF. Included in the sticker pack are two... In my holiday sticker pack that I'm remaining on sale, we're going to switch it up in the next week, but is 2 Jury Will Buy You a Drink tokens. Okay. These are custom made arcade tokens that if and when you see me in person, I will buy you a drink. And I'm letting you know that this is the last time that you'll be able to get 2 of them in a pack.
Wow.
We will still sell them, but the last time to get 2 of them in a pack is going to be this weekend. So go ahead and buy them now, especially if you're going South by Southwest, PAX South, Nerdtacular. Convention season is tuning up already. And if you want to bleed me dry, you're going to make money on this pack, especially if you hit me up at a con. Go ahead and get it now. That is stickers or DIAF.
Big thanks to everybody who supports this show at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Don't forget that URL. You could be like Jess or Robert Blank or David Drager. Thank you guys for making the show happen. Big thanks to C. Sean Longstreet, who just raised his pledge at patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Oh, turned down the wrong one. We're live at Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow to talk about the Nintendo Switch with Roger Chang and Len Peralta will be here to illustrate. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That may have been a 3-year-long streak I just broke.
What did you do?
I started turning down my mic instead of the music.
Oh.
Surprised I haven't done that before.
Show bot. All right, let me see. Titles. All right, so at the top we got Just Pick It. Oh, Just Pick It. Just Put It in iTunes. It's not a gimmick, it's a feature. Assistant Trigger Warning. Thine Thoughts Thursday.
Thine Thoughts Thursday.
I like that one. Thine.
To thine own thoughts be true.
To thine own thoughts be true.
So wait, what's the parentheses H/T Mew?
Oh, hat tip to Mew. I guess that means that Ian submitted it to the bot, but Mew is the one who came up with it.
Got it. Your Thoughts Thursday, like that as well.
Sure.
The Wheeler Keeps Rolling.
Wheeler, this guy keeps on turning.
Oh, this one's great.
Beat me to it.
YouTube's new Get Twitch Quick scheme. That one? No.
Oh, Get Twitch Quick?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Hey, by the way, the breaking news here, especially for any South Florida residents listening to us, effective immediately, the wet foot, dry foot policy is no more. You will need to legally immigrate from Cuba if you want to come here. For those of you who are not aware, previously, if you made it to America from Cuba, you could stay. And that led to all through my childhood, people on rafts. It would just you'd break into live television to watch people on rafts try to make it. The Coast Guard would try to stop you getting there, but if you make it to the beach,
you're in.
There. And it's
not anymore.
Yeah.
It was that policy that was at the backbone of the Elian Gonzalez debacle.
Interesting.
That's
a big change.
Wet foot, dry foot.
So what are we calling this?
Well, I like Thy Thoughts Thursday. Or your
Justin?
thought. No.
I like Thine Thoughts Thursday. Thine Thoughts Thursday is I think the perfect level
Done.
for this show.
So is there a natural? So I knew someone I had a ex-coworker was from Florida, and he said the whole state's very flat. So whenever a hurricane or whatever storm comes in, there's really no stopping. It just goes straight through. Is that an accurate description of the landscape?
Well, it is very flat. I believe the highest point in Florida is Mount Dora in central Florida, which is not a mountain. It's really just a hill that they call a mountain.
But it's a mountain there.
So, yeah, no, I think that in general that this is also Florida is also not very large, or at least like wide. So when hurricanes come in, unless they are riding the coast all the way up, in which case they're almost just as likely to be half into the ocean, no matter what. And the eye wall could be in the ocean. In general, it really only takes from where I used to live. We're getting real local here in Tamarack, Florida, to Marco Island, which is on the other side. It only takes about 30 minutes. So a hurricane crossing the threshold of Florida really is not that big of a feat in general.
How wide is the state?
How wide?
Like 100 miles? Shorter than that? 200 miles?
Well, it'd be Alligator Alley before it turns north.
Oh, so many local, so much colloquialisms. Alligator. Oh, why is it called Alligator?
Called Alligator Alley because you go through the Everglades.
But the alligators there.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So you come off the Sawgrass Expressway, heading south. You get right on Alligator Alley. You punch that right through, and then either you're taking a northward turn to Sarasota and Bradenton and Tampa and everything, or you are right there at like Marco Island, which is on the other side into the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, I guess the important question for me is Walt Disney World protected from these storms?
No.
Is Orlando? No.
Well, I mean, it's protected in that it understands that it will get hit with them, and periodically. I think the last time that hurricanes did major damage to South Florida was Hurricane Francis and Hurricane Katrina that came in the same year. Hurricane Katrina really did damage, especially to South Florida and to Central Florida.
So who's excited for the Chargers moving to LA? I ask seriously, is anyone actually excited about
no.
I don't know of anyone who is excited about that.
Well, San Diego cheese that they're losing them.
Yeah. So people are upset. I get that. But is anyone actually pleased by this? Other than the owner of the Chargers, perhaps.
Yeah, but didn't the Rams come back to LA?
Yeah,
right?
But people were happy about that because they had been here and there was.
But that's what I mean. Like, I don't know.
So there's no reason for the Chargers to come to Los Angeles. Nobody cares about them. The people who do care about them are in San Diego and will now not care about them. Well, and they're going to play in a soccer stadium for 2 years. So they're not expecting anyone to come show up because the capacity of that stadium is less than 30,000. So
the other thing is Dean Spanos of the San Diego Chargers did not want to move. He was as the kids say, butthurt about the fact that his proposal, which was fronted by Bob Iger and co-presented with the Oakland Raiders, they wanted to build another stadium that they would be co-owners of. They are now going to be moving into the Rams Stadium as tenants. They will not own any part of it. But they'll only pay $1 a year rent. Sure. So, there is that. Well, no, the other thing was, the city of San Diego offered them a 99-year lease for $1 a year at Qualcomm Stadium.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's but they wouldn't give him tax subsidies for a new stadium.
They would not give them a new stadium.
But he still had to pay $650 million to move in a franchise move fee. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand who benefits.
Well, there's an article on ESPN.com that basically paints the picture that this is a massive failure for the NFL. And if you are looking for a sign that the NFL is a league in decline, this is an early indicator. Obviously, there's no there's no doubt that the NFL is the largest, the big dog when it comes to American sports. But when a team that has a pretty happy fan base and is, understood to be reasonably well run and contending on a fairly regular basis has to move because their hometown would not approve a bond to build a new stadium, that's a sign of weakness. Like they moved because because everybody called their bluff. The other owners called their bluff about building a new stadium, and they said, well, we believe in Stan Kroenke more. And the city of San Diego called their bluff and said, whatever, either you're going to stay here or you're going to move. Suck it.
Why don't the Chargers go to Vegas, who won a team, and the Raiders come to LA, where there are a million fans?
No more. I'm going to say this. There's a reason why I stopped following the NFL, and that's when the Raiders left Oakland. And I was like, done. Because I honestly believed up to that point that teams were associated with cities, and there was a hallowed bond there. And if you were just going to up stakes and move, it seemed kind of like, well, why have loyalties to essentially? I mean, granted, they are corporate entities, but why have those loyalties? Why have that fan base? I don't know. That's just me.
Here's why there are two teams in LA. Because there are enough businesses in LA to pay for ad revenue and to pay for private suites.
Totally.
That's why there are two teams in LA. And because now you can have a stadium that during football season will have activity every week of the season. So that's why you do it. As to why the Raiders are not there, no BS. Part of the reason is because the other owners were worried that the last time the Raiders were in LA, gangs adopted their
colors
logo, which is, a kind of dubious thing considering the fact that the people that adopted the Raiders logo the most was NWA.
Yes.
It was who, by the way, certainly probably from areas in which gang activity is certainly prevalent. But last I checked, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Yella, not an actual gang.
Apple's Dr. Dre, who is an employee of Apple. Yeah.
No, you're right. No, the move that would have made the most sense was the Raiders first and maybe the Rams.
I can see Kroenke not wanting the Raiders to move to LA because they'll be more popular than the Rams.
Yeah. Now, the Raiders in Las Vegas is a cluster hug waiting to happen because not only is it going to immediately take out, so now there will be no NFL teams in the actual Bay Area market, right? Because the
49ers are down in the South Bay. They're in the Bay Area market, but they're in the San Jose end, not in the San Francisco, Oakland end.
It's annoying to get to, and nobody wants to do it unless the team's good, right? It's easy to get to. I mean, as much as the Oakland Coliseum, especially when the Raiders play there, is a literal prison. It's close. It's easy to get to. Whether you're in San Francisco or you're in Oakland, it's a BART ride there. You can just walk off the BART and get to the stadium.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. I was a season ticket holder of the A's, playing in the same stadium. It was great.
Where, by the way, it just feels like a charming baseball stadium. For whatever reason, when the Raiders are playing there, it's like the barbed wire shines brighter. There's just like it's a totally different atmosphere. It's very, very weird.
It's a fan base.
But get this. Now, this is something that broke over the last week. The NFL wants an agreement with the city of Las Vegas that they will ban betting in Las Vegas on Oakland Raiders game.
Well,
What?
the Raiders ain't going to Las Vegas.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Hello, Portland Raiders. I don't know.
But that's the other problem is that California in general, and the Bay Area specifically, and specifically the cities of San Francisco and Oakland, will not pay for stadiums.
Yeah. Well, and San Diego wouldn't either. So good on them. I don't think they need to. I mean, the Giants showed that you don't need to if you do it right. And in fact,
and the Warriors are going to show it too. You know,
totally. Yeah. Well, I went to that Rams-Cardinals game on January 1st, just out of the perverse willingness to see the two former St. Louis teams play against each other in a coliseum built for the Olympics in the 30s. And it was interesting. I was surprised how many Rams fans there were. There were thousands of people in Rams gear, and the people, I was sitting way up in the nosebleed seats. You know, I was 3 rows from the very top level of that stadium, were into the game. And this is a team that was out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
They had only won 4 games this year, and these people were into it. They were watching every play.
Well, you know, there's something to be said. LA is a massive population base. You know, the Rams had enough fans that the fans could be angry and they got their coach fired. So like there was that. You know, that they were pissed off enough, and there was enough of them that the ownership decided that they had to fire Jeff Fisher like 5 seconds after they gave him a 2-year contract extension. So, you know, there is that. You know, they have somebody like Eric Dickerson, who is a person who lives in Los Angeles and now can be an alumni figurehead for the team and be a sports talk radio guest to get all the locals excited. But you know, you're right. It is the Raiders that belong there if anybody is going to move to Los Angeles.
Did y'all see the Chargers' new logo?
So apparently that is not the new logo.
No.
But it is for marketing purposes. And my favorite tweet about it, did you see the Tampa Bay Lightning tweet?
No.
The Tampa Bay Lightning tweet is, you know, it's like wakes up, checks mentions. So just so everybody knows, us and the Dodgers are just friends.
If you're not getting that, folks, it's because the logo, which is just being used for marketing purposes, okay, it's not the official logo of the team, is the LA that looks very much like the LA that the Dodgers wear on their cap, and a lightning bolt that looks very much like the lightning bolt that the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team uses.
With almost the exact same color scheme that the Lightning use, the dark blue, stark white color scheme. So
as if perhaps they had had a child.
And also, by the way, if part of the reason why you are deciding to not let the Raiders move back to Los Angeles is because of gang affiliation, I'm very excited that now they have not 1, but 2 teams that feature blue jerseys.
Oh, right. Blue and yellow. Both of them do.
Yep. So congratulations, Crips and Latin Kings. Go ahead and get your gang affiliated jerseys.
Oh, man, my.
We got range. That is a range after show. We showed a lot of mastery of immigration policy, gang affiliation, deep dive on NFL ownerships, and
that's right, the Cuban thing,
tax subsidies. Dude, that's strong. I like that.
We bring it. That's all I gotta say. Bring the topic. We'll make something out of it. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Nintendo Switch. Switch it up. See you then.
Listen, you go out there and you pick your own Switch and then bring it back and we'll discuss it.